So the title I came up with just this morning was Embracing Adversity. Last time we talked about living with uncertainty, and that was really sort of raw and scary because we are living with uncertainty. This time it's embracing adversity, but I just have to tell you that the title is kind of a euphemism. So a euphemism is a very sanitary term for something a lot more dangerous. So I think we'll need to expand a little bit this title. So embracing adversity is a little bit of a misnomer because it sounds so cool, right? It sounds like, all right, I'm going to learn how to embrace adversity. But if you really are going to embrace adversity, you can't start there. I don't think you can start there. At best, you can start with reluctantly embracing adversity. And that's really, if it's a small a adversity, you kind of go, well, all right, you know? But if it's a bigger kind of adversity, or if it's the kind of adversity that seems really particularly difficult to you, you reluctantly might be a calm word, right? So if it's, what would be another word that's a little more intense than reluctantly?
My thought was just getting in the same room with adversity.
Yeah, yeah, tolerating.
Approaching.
Yeah, or no, just I'm working on the wrong word, and somebody took my, here it is. So we'll just stick with reluctantly because I think most of us come to adversity reluctantly. I don't know of anybody who really wants adversity in their life. So at best, we come to it reluctantly. Then the middle word, embracing, is the one that I think needs the most modification. So I like what you said, Mary, getting in the room with.
Or you can hug, you'd have to be in the same room.
Getting in the same room with, which is kind of the same as tolerating. But before even we get to embracing, you might recognize resisting, rejecting, freaking out about, denying. Love that one. What else would we rather do than embrace? Running from, yeah.
Shun.
Yes. Running from, shunning. Overcoming. That's one of my best ones.
Damn it.
Yeah. Overcoming adversity. Yeah, ignoring is kind of like denying, but good one.
How about tantruming?
Yeah. Yeah.
Flat out rebelling.
Yeah. Rebelling.
Disassociating.
Yeah. Rebelling. Dissociating. Avoiding. Adversity. And so any number of things there that we'd rather do than embrace it, although embracing sounds so spiritual. But really we are in a culture, I don't know, it's probably just human nature that we don't want adversity. We don't want to go gently into that dark night or whatever. And so we try, hello, I just saw you. we're determined to not have adversity. You know, we work really hard to keep adversity out of our path. And then once it's there, the survival of the human race is about overcoming adversity for the most part. So it's very natural not to want it. And I don't want it. I honestly, honest to God, I do not want it. And so we do these kinds of things instead. And so part of my personal crisis in the last couple of months around what's happening in our country is that it looked to me like there was this everybody has adversity, right? You can't get rid of it, but it looked to me like overcome a lot of adversity in the last 8 years, and that some things were really, really bad, and then they kind of got better, and everything wasn't perfect, or a lot of things still needed to be done, but it looked like, we were on a path to continue building a society in which there wasn't so much adversity for so many disenfranchised people. And so I was really liking that story. Whether it was true or not, I was really liking that story. And it really seemed to fit with my values of, the human values of being in this together, and plurality, and looking out for one another, and creating safe spaces, and all of that kind of thing. I really resonate with personally. And so it just seemed like, well, I hope we get to win. I hope that gets to continue. And I think it's going to get to continue, because that seems so logical and so no-brainer that why wouldn't we? Although there were still problems there. I'm just talking about my story. So then when that didn't happen, the impact of the implications of the message that we're putting into office someone who does not hold to those values. Can we agree on that? Those values, explicitly out of his mouth. I was really in a crisis at a pretty deep level, and a personal crisis. So we can argue the merits of the other kinds of crises that may come up, but for me, it just shook me at a level that was hard for me to articulate, and hard for me to figure out how to be okay. So I had a couple of really good attempts to be okay, and I remember being, really eloquent about certain things, about how you do this, and so I was thinking about, I can't remember what the first one was right after the election. I can't remember what we talked about the trauma thing. Oh, trauma, yeah, it was dealing with trauma. And then the next month it was, dealing with uncertainty, and basically the message was, well, you just keep doing what you're doing, you dig deep and blah, blah, blah. And that sounded really good, but I was getting a little bit better until the 19th of December. And I realized that the confidence and the hope that I had, although I would not allow myself to acknowledge that I was hoping, was that some brave individuals who were electors would do the right thing, what I thought was the right thing. And I wouldn't let myself consciously believe that. I was telling myself, it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen. But down here, I think I was really hoping that it would. And so then that night, I had a full-on screaming, crying meltdown. Just the most childish tantrum you've ever seen. And so and it was around this thing of how unjust it feels that the right values don't win. And I was really realizing, even though I mentioned it last time, I was really attached to the idea of winning. Not winning over people necessarily, but winning, like the righteous in quotes, triumphing and justice being done, and moving progressively toward a better world for all of us. Because deep inside, I believe that if you're not going to win, then what good is it? I think that that's true for me. If you're not going to win, then what good is it? Where's the hope? Where's the thing that keeps you going? If it's not about some just result, some right solution. And so it really threw me. And good thing Ted didn't do any like videotaping or anything, because it was bad. It was really bad. And I guess I was in the avoiding, ignoring, the denying, the running from, the overcoming. You know, I was looking for a way to overcome, and I couldn't really find it. And when I finally shattered that last little hope, then I didn't know what to do. I just quit. Literally what I did was I just quit talking, and I poured a whiskey, and I sat down and watched Netflix. That was it. Yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah, I think, yeah. So, so then the next day, and I wish I had it for you. If I knew I was going to talk about it, I'd have my ducks in a row a lot better than I will today. But the next morning, I got up and I just thought, I need something else, and it's not going to be found on Facebook. So. Or in a whiskey bottle. Well, not for breakfast anyway. Yeah. So I remember that I had, and I always start these books, these really good books, I start them and kind of get the gist after about the first quarter or the first half of the book, and then go, oh, I think I got that. And I don't buy a whole lot of books, but when I do, it's usually a really good book. And the really good book, and I think I've mentioned it here before, is When Things Fall Apart by Pema Chodron. And just like I used to do with the Bible, I just thought, well, whatever, wherever it is, I'm going to start reading. So it's on my Kindle, so I just opened it up where I had left off. And that first paragraph just sort of grabbed me. And I don't remember how she put it, which it was very eloquent, but it was basically the same thing that I always knew, which is you are fighting against something that is. And every time you fight against something that is, that really just is, you know, that you have very little control over, that you can't prevent or you can't overcome or whatever, then you create all kinds of suffering for yourself. And so, and part of the reason why you're suffering is not just the thing that is, because actually it's only barely started. The thing that I was dreading has only just now barely started. It was the idea of the doom that was coming, you know what I'm saying, that that I was suffering, and that no one seemed to have any power against it. And that just hooks into all kinds of my own personal stuff, the sense of powerlessness. I don't think anybody likes it, but it just sends me right over the edge. And anyway, so reading that little paragraph was, I just couldn't argue with the truth of it, that I was internally resisting something that was going to happen, or that had happened, or that I thought was wrong, but was there indeed anyway, on so many levels. And I was suffering because I was not willing to or able to disconnect from my suffering enough to look at it and let myself interact with it, which is kind of what mindfulness is, if in a nutshell. It's the ability to face and be with whatever is in the present, in all the parts of you, in a non-judgmental way. So you're just dealing with the data that is there, and you're becoming present to the data, which is the thing in front of you, but also the data of what's happening inside your body. And so it really helped me to realize that my practices were obtained and created through my own personal adversity going years back, which felt like was controllable now to me, even though then it wasn't. And I just wasn't prepared for a reality that was potentially worse than that, or wronger than that. And so I had to integrate the truth that I felt like I had come to with the reality that was right there. In a nutshell, that's kind of all we ever need, right? Is we are resisting something, thinking we can control it. It's not controllable. And so then we're creating stories about it that are causing us to suffer needlessly instead of do something that is more life-affirming or, even more productive. Even if that thing is to actually fight. Do you see what I'm saying? So I'm not saying we just resign ourselves, but it struck me that what got uncovered then for me was this whole idea of I signed up to win. I signed up to win. And I signed up for everything. Whatever it was I signed up for in life, I signed up to win. And I did not want to sign up for anything that was going to be a foregone conclusion of losing, So, and our society really is built on that. We love winners, and we want to win, and we want to be number one, and we want to be the best. It's just really ingrained in who we are. And I think I just felt that very personally, even though it went contrary to this other stream that was happening, deep inside my true self, my psyche, my soul, whatever, which was the only thing that matters is what is really real and what is really true, So unpacking all of these narratives and all these structures about, spirituality is what I'm talking about. There's how we live our lives and how we're enculturated to do that. And then there's some reality that sort of flows underneath all of that is probably true regardless, and that we're happier and more whole and more authentic if we can somehow tap into that. And so everything that we've been talking about in School of Life has been about that type of spirituality. So whether it's rewiring your brain, whether it's all your other ways of knowing, whether it's listening to your body, whether it's practicing mindfulness, what are some of the other things, listening to the soul and how the soul speaks, and taking risks, and allowing that part of you to emerge and grow, and let the kind of the false stuff step back, and the true self and true being emerge. All of that. I don't know how that happened. Sorry. Anyway, it's what we've all been about, right? So I don't know how to get into what I really want to talk about, except that this is the setup. That morning in listening to her, reading her words and letting it sink in, something inside of me, I think one of the things that helps me, maybe it's because I'm a 9, but on the Enneagram, but going to the worst case scenario is always a good go-to for me. Because then I think if I can imagine the worst thing and then go, okay then, I guess that's what we'll have to do. Somehow it helps me come to peace. So that's basically what I did. As I thought about the history of the human race and how, who am I kidding? We're living in the easiest time there ever was, and we're just used to it. And so people are suffering all over the world. People who are, the most awful things have been happening ever since the beginning. We've just been living in this kind of bubble for a long time now, so that we think that that's what we're entitled to. We think that that's what it should be, and won't argue with that. I think it's okay that it should be. But it hit me that there's something about the soul and about our interaction with what is real that absolutely needs adversity in order to develop and to be pure. And by purity, I hope you know that I don't mean morally pure or any external standard, but so it's like water purity. If we're tapping into some stream, we want to make sure that we're not polluting it with these other things and that we're getting the real deal. Hope?
Is it okay if I ask a question?
Of course it is, yes.
I'm having a little bit of a hard time, and I just want to name it. I'm feeling a little tense. I appreciate that we looked at reluctantly and we looked at embracing, but we didn't look at adversity. And I'm having a hard time in my own experience thinking that what I'm reluctantly, and I won't use the embracing, maybe tolerating is a better word for me, is adversity. I mean, I think of adversity as, you plan a picnic and it rains, or, you're having a hard time paying the rent or something like that. But I find in my experience that what I am being asked to deal with and accept on a certain level is not adversity. It's something, adversity on steroids. It's
Okay.
something.
Yes, I hear you. Let's go there right now.
I kind of want to get to that because
Okay.
it changes.
Yes.
that
Okay.
grid for me.
So if you're listening and you didn't hear what Hope said, let's shift to adversity, because adversity, I think also you're reacting to that as being somewhat of a euphemism as well. Like it's sort of a sterile word for what could just be all kinds of stuff. So let's take this one apart, and instead of adversity, what are some of the words that come to you? Evil.
That's the word that comes to me as well.
Okay. Perversity. Conflict. Ignorance.
I'm going to go out on a limb here. This is from my dreams. Antichrist.
Yeah. Anti-Christ. How about this one? Disaster. Calamity. And I'm talking more generally now too. Disassembling.
Or catalyst.
Disassembling.
Or chaos.
Yep, chaos. Chaos, destruction. Injustice. I cannot stand the idea of the wicked prospering. That's a biblical term. I cannot stand it. It goes against everything in my, every fiber of my being. So, is that enough?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Devastation,
Yeah,
wickedness.
devastation.
Yeah.
What about catalyst? I mean, I really like that, whether we like the fact that adversity, it's a catalyst for
Yeah,
change.
yeah.
I always see adversity, even though I might be reluctant about it, I don't always like change. And whether sometimes change is created by really awful things
That's,
that disassemble,
yes,
you know, and take apart
yes.
and reassemble. So that's, you know, going beyond it, but
Yeah,
I
and I
see
think,
adversity as a catalyst.
yeah, and hopefully this morning that's where we're going. But I think what hit me is, in that moment, was that just exactly what you were saying, Hope, that it's not just adversity. This could be actual devastation, actual disassembly of everything that we just assume that we have. It could be, and it could not be. That's great too. But I had to consider the possibility that we white Americans, professional or privileged or whatever you want to call us, that it might be our turn. Just like in Sudan, did you know that in Sudan, what's happening in Sudan? No one talks about that. It's complete and utter chaos. It's a proxy war for two major world powers, and people are being murdered and raped every single day. And I don't know what they believe. I don't know what they think. I don't know if they have any, but it's happening to them no matter what they believe. Okay? Then there's Syria, that is, you know what that's like. It's just an absolute devastation. And there are good people, people of faith, people who are soulful people running for their lives or dying or being used in another proxy war going on. Those are just two examples. So that's not adversity. That's absolute disaster, the end of things. And so I'm pretty sure they're not going, well, this is adversity. Let's just figure out how we're going to handle it. You know, they're running for their lives. Now, I think that the chances are we won't be doing that. So, but there are people in this country still who are really living with some nasty things. Anytime there's a big loss or some kind of transition. And when it's adversity on this scale, it does dismantle you in a way that some people survive and some people don't, and some people thrive and some people don't. And the ones who do, in the worst of the situations, it's because they take advantage of some catalyst, that it is a catalyst. But it's not because the other ones made a mistake. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes disaster happens to you whether you call it a catalyst or not, and you have no opportunity to rise from the ashes. So that next level, that next layer of possible disaster, I could imagine. And that because I started thinking about the history of the world as much as I know of it, and the history of the world is this pendulum swing back and forth between, you know, the Roman Empire, you know, the Greeks, the golden age of the Greeks, to being conquered by the Romans. Then the Romans sort of reform, and then here come the barbarians, and we go into the Dark Ages for 500 years. So in the Dark Ages, the strong were winning. No one had anything. There was no community of mankind. It was dark, and superstition was the only thing that got people going. And then there was enlightenment, and along with that were a whole lot of war. Then there was like the Inquisition and the witch trials and all that kind of thing. And then there was some kind of enlightenment that happened in the 1800s. And then what was there? And so this pendulum swing of the history of humanity was starting to leak into my brain. And I realized that there aren't really any guarantees anywhere. But that's what I signed up for. I signed up for guarantees, and I thought I had them. So I want to talk about faith a little bit because in my personal journey, that's why I signed up. That's why I became religious. That's why I sold my whole self, because what I thought I was signing up for was A, winning. Well, A, being wanted. That was kind of my best thing. I was wanted. B, belonging, which was another one of my core things. And C, some kind of satisfaction to this thing about bad things happen and it's not fair. So who can help me be okay with that? So that's basically what I signed up for faith. And I liked that because we were going to win. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I heard this saying from some pulpit somewhere or another. I looked in the back of the book and guess what? We win. I'm like, yeah, we won, we won. So it was really interesting. Anyway, to have some kind of story, some sort of narrative or some sort of foundation for hope that that there was some way to explain or get okay with or overcome or triumph over or be compensated for this was the kind of the only thing that kept me going. Because I think that, and a lot of you are very spiritual people and tuned into forces that, you know, just are flying around in the atmosphere, and just some of those deeper kinds of cosmic realities are we are tuning forks for. You don't know what I'm saying. I
just watched the movie Contact.
Yeah, something that we can't see. But I think that there may be certain personalities that are more attuned to that than others. But I just know I've always been one of them. And and it's so overwhelming and painful that I've spent most of my life just pushing it away. And then my spirituality was the way that I was able to be okay even though those things were there. It was my buffer, my safety, and my surety that that somebody was going to triumph over this. So it was probably on the 15th of December. I was driving in my car. I was driving down to a meeting that I have in the tech center, so I had a good 45 minutes to drive, and I tuned into the classical station, and they were broadcasting the Colorado Symphony and some choral group who were performing the Christmas part of Handel's Messiah. And so when I was in high school in choir, I loved that. We did that. You know, we dug into all that really hard stuff. So I'm driving along and I'm singing, the glory of the Lord shall be revealed. You know, I'm just singing to the top. But I think the first song that was almost halfway through was the Hallelujah chorus. And I just love that. Still gives me, so I'm crying and I'm singing. And then it took me about halfway till I was there that I realized the whole Handel's Messiah is about winning. It's all about winning. And that's part of what I loved about it. So in the Hallelujah chorus, it says, the kingdom of this world and of his Christ shall be revealed, and he shall reign forever and ever. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. This is triumphalism, you know. this is what I live for, you know. And so even in that, there's like he shall glorify. So it's about glory, and then there's another aria that, or another chorus is about he shall purify the sons of Levi. So all of the history of my faith was all about, you know what, life is shit, but we're on the winning side, and if we don't understand it, all we have to do is like hang on to the big guy, because it will be revealed at the end sometime, and maybe not before you die, but after you die, because the kingdom of this world and of his Christ, you know, shall be revealed, and blah, blah, blah. So it started to hit me that how deeply, like from my toes, that's what I signed up for, and why I felt so shaken personally, because it just didn't look like the kingdom of God, or the kingdom of the soul, or the way that things are, or the beautiful revelation of connected humanity even. So amongst all of that, I started thinking about this idea of adversity with a small a. Because let's face it, most of us that's what we'll be facing. Or not. I mean, but I needed some way to sort of redeem this. Like, what good is it? Like, who makes a world where this happens? How does this make any sense? I don't know, but what is to be plucked out of the devastation then? You know, if that's what I look for. It's like, if I don't understand something, or it's not working the way I want it, and it is here, what's my opportunity when it's here? What is there that I can, that might end up being a gift to me? Not the reason why it happened, but what is in the devastation because of what is that's there, that if I quit telling my stories, I might be able to see. Does that make sense? So then I started thinking about the idea of adversity and how very little good happens without it. So if we genericize adversity, so this is, I'm not talking about these things right now. I'm talking about adversity in terms of a different kind of resistance. It's just a matter of how you see it. Okay, so are you with me with small a adversity? So the idea is that what happens when we have it good all the time? And maybe not we, but those other people who are not spiritual, you know, who are maybe born with a silver spoon in their mouth, or they have everything that they need, or they never have to suffer. Yeah, they're complacent. They're bored. They're entitled. They're fat. What are you saying, Mary? Just kidding.
Do you remember from Godspell that some men are born to live at ease, doing what they please, living richer than the bees are in honey?
Yes.
Never growing old, never feeling cold, pulling pots of gold from thin air. The best at shaking down, best at making mountains of money. They can't take it
With them, but what do they care? They're not biz.
Center of the bees.
Keep going.
Sunny, winter's warm and free, summer's at the sea. All of this and we get the rest, but who is the land for the sun and sin for? You guessed
It's all for the best. Yeah, I wish I had that. Yeah, I used to be able to do that. I spent hours and hours trying to learn that part of the song. My gosh, that was great. In case you didn't hear that, if you're listening, it's the part of this little ditty duet that they did in the musical Godspell. and it's all about living in ease and the ones who have it right. And so you should look it up because it's really a clever little, and then it's a, what is it paired with?
The other guy is saying when you feel bad,
When
or
you
under
feel
a
bad
curse, your
or under a curse.
life is bad, your prospects are worse. And
Your
so-
life, your wife is
sighing,
sighing,
dying.
crying, and the wrong tree is dying. Praying and creditors weighing your purse. Your mood and your robe are both a deep blue. You think that Job has nothing on you. Don't forget that when you get to heaven, you'll be blessed. Yes, it's all for the best. Yeah,
There we go. We win.
we win. Yeah, but that's not spiritual.
We get everything else.
This is why there was music and
Yeah. Yeah. So back to living in ease. What happens when that happens, unfortunately, is that we get complacent, entitled, fat, and not resilient. Like, because we sort of count on the context to hold it and hold us and make it safe for us. And so we have children who don't know how to lose, or they don't know how. This is the big complaint you often hear from conservatives against having a better world, because now we're all spoiled, we're lazy, we don't work for anything, we don't deserve anything, that kind of thing. And without going into whether I agree with them or not, the truth is that if you didn't do what you were created to do, so let's just take the human body, for example. We learn how to walk by resisting gravity, and we learn how to walk by falling first and then learning from it. So adversity to a baby is gravity, not enough strength in your legs, and not having a developed sense of balance that you can only then develop by feeling imbalanced, trying and falling, and adapt. So your brain and your muscles, the whole body of a child is learning, is changing, is being changed by both the desire or the urge to, walk, and the resistance to it. So it's a great analogy. If all we did was lay around and eat and sleep and watch Netflix, then we would lose we're designed so that our system adapts to adversity, so to speak. So if there is no resistance, this is what I hate about physical fitness, is that you work so hard to build up this muscle, and then you're stuck. Like, you have to keep doing it. There's no arriving and then coasting, which is also what I signed up for some reason. And it just bothers me so much, so that, it hurts so much to get in shape. And then if you get sick or you go on vacation or you just get lazy or something for 2 weeks, 2 weeks is all it takes. And then the first day back, you're like, oh God, why is this so hard? And it feels like suffering. And it is suffering in some way, because I at least want the easy way. But in order for any growth to happen, we have to strive against something. Even if all it is some weights at the gym, or some, treadmill, or something that we create for ourselves so we can conquer. That's why, oh my gosh, modern physical fitness is like, so there's something so weird about it, because it used to be that you didn't do that stuff because you're out there working all the time. You're lifting, you're running, you're bending, you're climbing, you're whatever. So in this time, we have ease, and that ease brings on all kinds of dis-ease. And so then we have to create for ourselves resistance, and unless we have it already. So for some reason, it's necessary. It also applies, I think, it also applies in some ways to spiritual movements and human movements. And one thing that I think that I believe, one of the crises of my life, I think, has been the corruption and the collapse of the faith system that I was a part of. Because I signed up for some real true things along with the winning part. And then I watched it shift so that it became like a facsimile of what I used to believe, and then it just has become something else, not universally, but in my mind. And so, I started talking. And then I would find these, and I'm personally connected to people that I believe in, who are, with everything that they know, they're dedicating their lives to working for these values. And I consider the refuge to be one of those places, like the one place that I can say this represents Christianity to me. But if you'll notice, the refuge isn't exactly building stadiums that house 15,000 people, and they don't exactly have all the trappings, and they don't have the resources that actually they could put to really good use, right? And I just don't understand that. That, again, that doesn't make any sense to me. And especially if there is a God, I'm thinking, wouldn't you find the people who get it and then get them the resources? That's what we were taught. If you're just good and you do your thing, then God will take care of you. Well, I've been around long enough to know that sometimes that works and sometimes that doesn't work. So there's the refuge. There's our friend Suzanne Molnar, who, for whatever reason, God told her to work with permanent Palestinian refugees in the Middle East. And getting that funded and getting that really good work off the ground and mobilized. And I'm up close and personal to the kind of suffering that my friend goes through, just trying to walk out what she believes is really what her life is for and about. So if you'd like to give to that, BeirutandBeyond.org. But anyway, so, and not just these people, but the people who are really holding true, like finding that source and tapping into that and letting it change them and allowing themselves to be in the world in some true fashion. I almost think that one way you can judge the purity of their mission might be that they're flippin' poor. Because no one wants that shit. And that's what I keep saying. Sorry. That's what I keep saying. One of my crises about my Christian faith was really getting a clearer idea of who Jesus seemed to be, and what he might have cared about, and who he would be hanging out with if he were here now. I just went, oh, no. Ain't nobody got no time for that. Like, I don't want to be under the bridge, on a cold winter night, trying to bring something to someone who doesn't have a home, and that's where he would go. I think when that dawned on me, I just thought, this is just a bad scheme all around. And so that was one of the crises. Like, I can't, because I could see inside myself, I just want to win, and I don't want to go there. I don't want to, because my hyper empathetic nature is like, I will just lay down and cry, drown myself in the creek or something. So that's part of my personal crisis. But one thing I've picked up over the years is that there's something about true, authentic, the values that we care about are mostly underground. They are mostly outside of the mainstream. They are mostly without limelight. And we have enough examples of people who started out authentic, and what they offered to the world was this beautiful, inspired something. And then as other people started to consume it and elevate them, the crisis that happened to the person who just started out offering that, it's kind of a lesson for our time. So you look at it. If nothing else, well, the movie La La Land. Saw that last night. Oh my gosh. I just, if I'd have let myself, I would have sat there for half an hour and just cried when it was over. It's just so beautiful. And it really encompasses all the things that we've been talking about. But the price of it is just so high. And I realized part of my crisis just today was that you can't have this and win too. Or maybe you can, but you can't be on the same plane with it. So part of what helped me with this latest crisis in our nation and my attachment to it was that I was engaging it on the same plane. So we have the bad people over here and the good people over here, the good forces over here, bad forces over here, or the dark side of the force and the Jedi over here, whatever you want to say. And on this plane, it looked like there wasn't, coming toward it, who's going to win? The bad's winning. So we need to our stuff and win, overcome. And I would just get rankled around love wins. Does it really? Winning in what way? I just was like, no. And my crisis and what I was like screaming about was that no one's doing anything. And the people that are doing something, the bad people don't care. Like when we don't have truth that means anything, or facts mean nothing, or opinions are just as good as experience, or celebrity is just as good as qualifications, we're lost. I'm just like, yeah, it was even worse than that. So, but it was on the same plane, and I was on this plane going, I can't do this by myself, and I'm not even a fighter. And the people who do have the power, they're not doing anything. I'm just freaking out because it was on this plane. So most of humanity lives on this polarity of above ground, how things work, and who has influence and power. And what helped me was that I had to step off that plane and find a different place to dwell. So my friend Tom Daly talks about this pendulum. He talks about pendulum swings. So there's good versus evil, or liberal versus conservative, or nice versus nasty, or us versus them. It's all on the same plane. And as long as you fight on that plane, you're going to be missing the point. Or maybe you'll win, or maybe you won't. But it's much better if it's a pendulum swinging between two extremes. The best place to be is at the fulcrum, on a different plane, in a different place, so that you can either see the bigger picture or have better resources to deal with what's happening. So that's part of what was coming to me when I was thinking about there's some wisdom I do not understand around adversity and resistance coming toward us. That even though we think it should be all good all the time, we really don't do well when that happens. And so there must be an opportunity if we can clear our head enough and get planted in a different plane, whether it's up here or down there, I'm not quite sure. And that embracing, actually getting in the room with, and then tolerating, and then reluctantly acknowledging, and then hating it but accepting it, and then maybe at some point embracing resistance or adversity, disaster, shit show, whatever you want to call it, is at least an open door for us. It is at least an opportunity for us. And we already have the skills to do that with. We just don't quite know it. One of the things that really struck me this week was this essay by
Dr. Estes?
yes, Dr. Estes. What's her first name?
Claire.
Clarissa Pinkola Estes. Yeah.
Women Who Ran with the Wolf.
Yeah. Her thing was, we were made for this. And people who are off the battlefield, they're off the pendulum, people that are off the pendulum, there's a lot of them. There are millions of them. And they're kind of mobilizing, and they're standing up, and we're sort of, and we don't know what they're going to, because it's a different kind of resisting. It's a different kind of engagement with what is than the jumping on the bandwagon and fighting. And there are people who are called to fight. So I'm not disparaging that. I just know that for me, I'm not a fighter. I'm not an activist. I hold space for people, and I try to tell the truth. That's basically my whole life in a nutshell. And so to gear up and try to jump up on the battlefield and do that, I believe people are called to do that. If you're called to do that, do it. But, okay. But if not, there are the hidden, the underground, the people. And it's not necessarily about winning. So, this, if you were here last time, you might have noticed that when I was talking about this stuff, basically, it occurred to me there's some Bible passage that is from Hebrews 12 about being surrounded by witnesses, and how every time I say that, I start crying. So I've been kind of sitting with that for about a month, like, what the heck is that? And actually went back and read the passage, and then I just thought, no, that's not really giving me anything. It's not really giving me anything. But this morning, I thought, well, maybe I'll, just out of curiosity, because the beginning of chapter 12 comes right after chapter 11. And if you know your Bible like I do, like all of y'all should know, chapter 11 is called the faith chapter. And it's really quite, it used to be, what the triumphalists would start talking about, like all the heroes of the faith. Oh my gosh, it just goes on paragraph after paragraph after paragraph after paragraph. And then it says this. So, well, I'll just give you a little juice of the good guys. He's just going on and on and on about all the heroes of the faith. He goes, and what more should I say? I don't even have time to tell you about Gideon, Barak, Samson, and Jephthah, about David and Samuel and the prophets, who through faith conquered kingdoms, administered justice, gained what was promised, and shut the mouths of lions, quenched the fury of the flames, escaped the edge of the sword, whose weakness was turned into strength, and who became powerful in battle and routed foreign enemies. Women received back their dead, raised to life again. There were others, and then without even saying but, there's no but there. Just goes right into, there were others who were tortured, refusing to be released so that they might gain an even better resurrection. Some faced jeers and flogging, chains and imprisonment. They were put to death by stoning, sawed in two, killed by the sword. They went about in sheepskins, goatskins, destitute, persecuted, mistreated. The world was not worthy of them. So I know what I used to believe about that passage, like even those poor people, they're kind of like a footnote at the end of the, all these great things, and then kind of this footnote on, oh, and by the way, there were people who were tortured and cut in two and hanged and burned and destitute and blah, blah, blah. But it all turns out good in the end, so don't lose heart. When I read it again today, I just thought, I don't know how it turns out. I think that it's all the same. That what is being asked of us is faith, which is not what we think it is. It's not an adherence to a set of beliefs that are going to protect us from adversity. Faith is the courage. Faith is courage, is trust and courage. Faith is trust and courage. To be who you are and do what you know you need to do. And sometimes you'll get your people back from the dead, and sometimes miraculous things happen, and sometimes, miracles, freaking miracles happen. I could sit down and tell you miracles I've witnessed firsthand. But sometimes with the same faith, you're in the middle of something that sweeps you away and you do not win. You do not win. But the thing that's the same, or can be the same, the opportunity, the invitation for us is not in some, the invitation for us is to let ourselves be lit with who we are and what's real. And then embrace whatever it is that's coming toward us with that life force we've all been trying to uncover and live in. And then, but you got to know if you do that, you could win or you could get creamed. And the point is not who wins. The point is, did you, what?
Did you show up?
Yeah, did you show up? Did you tap in? Did you shield yourself and hide, or did you show up with everything that you truly are?
Respond to the nudges.
Yeah, did you listen? Did you?
Like Joe.
Yeah. What,
Or not Joe, but Jonah.
I just think that the revelation for me was that the pendulum is not the place. The place for us is deeper into what is real and true. But we need to know that for some of us, there will just be a really, really high price. And for me personally, maybe you guys are fine with not winning, but I hate it with a passion. But for me, I had to just go, you know what? We may not win. We might be entering a really, really dark time. I might personally lose some things. And that's not why. I had to find a better reason to believe in what I believe and to do what I'm doing, which is trying to uncover, get all the crap out of the way and be lit. And so it's just not about winning, and I'm just so sad about that. I can't even tell you. But there is a little thing that really helped me, and hopefully you can hear maybe you saw this going around, but the guy's name is Travis Reed, and his blog is called The Work of the People. And the post is called, you can't paste fruit to the tree or something like that. With duct tape, yeah. You can't duct tape fruit to the tree. And I won't play you the whole thing because it's like 15 minutes long, but it really helped me to hear these people saying this. And so I just want to share some bits with you that. Oh, bring the microphone.
What is it about Jesus that stirred your imagination?
I think the audacity of it. If you take the kind of that fundamental frame which I do, that God who is already, as it were, in the infinite bliss of heaven and in the communion of persons in love and all that stuff, would go, actually, what I need to do now is completely empty myself and go down and be utterly vulnerable.
Be absolutely vulnerable.
That's a very strange idea, but it's also very strangely attractive.
That's all God's doing, is giving away God.
Yes. The whole thing is worth listening to.
It isn't like that. She goes, I think I believe in Jesus. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. You're like screwed now.
I think that's the best thing she's ever said.
About Jesus, they
us into conversation with one another. I believe the Bible's meant to be a conversation starter, not a conversation ender.
What's tranquilizing our conscience?
money. Money.
Church was largely silent throughout most of the early 20th century when we had racial terrorism in this country, where thousands of people were being lynched.
What? I didn't read about that in my history class.
There were people lynched in America from the end of Reconstruction until World War II. Thousands of African Americans were pulled from their homes, sometimes pulled from churches. They were burned alive. They were hanged. They were murdered. They were shot. They were sometimes lynched in the public square with thousands of people, including people who regularly went to church, cheering on these acts of violence and terror. It was terrorism, and the church was largely silent.
I have very little sympathy for those who have.
I thought that was a good definition of prayer, and I still think so.
And it makes total sense to me that Jesus would have to be the Son of God, because people would want love to be like unicorns and rainbows. And so then you just send Jesus, and people go, oh my God, love is hard. Love is sacrifice. Love is, eating with the sick. Love is breaking bread with people that, love is trouble. Love is rebellious.
To believe is and I pray for him, for my brother, for example, so that he may enjoy that.
People tend to assume that the more certain you are, the stronger your faith is. Make sense? That's the general assumption. And so then doubt is a sign of weak faith. And we talk this way, like, so-and-so just has such strong faith, they've never once doubted the Bible's God's word. Or so-and-so has such strong faith, they just know they're going to get healed. They're certain of it. And so then what happens is we have kind of this thing where certainty becomes a virtue and doubt becomes a vice. So you create a culture of people who are striving for certainty, trying to convince themselves that what they believe is right. The thing that's really curious about it is that I think it's a form of idolatry, because what ends up happening is people's security and sense of being special before God and having worth comes not from their actual relationship with God, but it comes from how certain they feel about their beliefs about God. And that leads to all sorts of weird things, because people who are certain of their beliefs and never will question anything can't possibly learn anything. You can't learn anything or change if you're not willing to doubt that what you already believe is maybe wrong. Before you can ever get a new belief, you have to question your old beliefs. But if you're invested, if a source of life is for you to remain certain that what you got in 8th grade was the whole truth and nothing but the truth, well then there's no way for that to ever grow. You're stuck with that. Which I've met people who can be really bright, PhDs in different areas of their life, but when it comes to talking theology, all of a sudden it's like talking to an 8th grader, because they've insulated that all their life. They're always protecting that.
But what I don't understand is how these animals could have been on Earth millions of years before man, and the Bible says the whole earth was created in only 6 days.
That's why so many religious people get angry when you try to dialogue with them about their beliefs. If you disagree with them, they can get really angry because their identity, their life, is found in trying to remain certain that what they believe is true. So the more plausible an objection you raise, the more they're going to operate out of their amygdala.
If nothing else, we can look at nature. You see a pine tree experiencing some decay, and over time it falls to the ground. And over time it begins to house various animals that live off of the substance of that decay. Then over time that pine tree falls and crumbles, and then it becomes the floor of the forest. And in the midst of all of that, it becomes the basis for a new pine tree. So yeah, I think if we can see that in nature, then we can see that in our nature, in human nature, that indeed all things can become made new.
What gives you hope?
That. That gives me hope because I see a lot of people suffering. And I know that even in my own suffering, God gives me an opportunity to dig down deep past all of the pain and past all of the disappointment and the hurt and the rejection and the injustices. And in the midst of that, He'll let me see just a glimpse of something life-giving. That's what gives me hope.
Not exactly the kingdoms of this world have become the kingdoms of our Lord and of our Christ. I really encourage you to find that and listen to it. And if you can, filter out all the, message to the church thing and all of the language that might, I know for me anyway, I have to avoid the language because I learned the language in the context of a theology that let me win. And so what hit me about this was that a whole bunch of people are kind of going, you know what, it ain't about that. And then she just slayed me because I just thought, if you're a pine tree, and of course pine trees are like my favorite thing in the whole world, but if you're a pine tree and you're done, you fall. And you're not renewed, but you become part of the renewal of a whole forest, and something else grows. And this is how ecology works. This is how the earth works. And so I was in it for me. I want to be the tree that becomes the tree of life. I don't want to be the tree that falls without seeing what is going to come from me when I'm done. So I hope you can make some sense out of what I'm just trying to throw at you, and listen to yourself about who can you listen for something that's real and true, and can you have the faith, or the courage or the fortitude, whatever that is, to remain in that regardless. And even if the story that you were using to win maybe is not all of the picture. So, I don't know. Welcome to 2017, and wondering if we have 5 minutes. So, anything you want to say, or?
I do. So this was awesome. Thank you so much. Moved on so many levels. That last speaker also slayed me. the empaths in the group are all weeping. But I really latched on to a lot of what you said, but I love the point about being at the fulcrum. For me, being at the fulcrum is where my choice begins.
Yes.
So that's where that's the point, the still point, in which I can choose where my faith to do what you know you need to do is going to position me on the pendulum.
Yes.
And so I'm not on the pendulum as a victim. I'm not on the pendulum in a knee jerk, but I'm on the pendulum through the conscious choice I got to make by residing at the fulcrum.
Yes.
And so I hadn't thought of that before. I think it's really brilliant, and I'm really grateful that you brought that to me.
Well, I'm really grateful that you said it like that. That was like the very eloquent summation and ending, of what was trying to be expressed. That if you get out of the pendulum swing and you can find yourself at the still point, then you can choose, and you're actually tuning into a larger context or a better source or something, that then you can choose whether you're going to participate in the fight or be an underground railroad or just be a presence of light in the world or whatever. So thanks for saying that.
Yesterday, Jose and I took the boys to go see Hidden Figures. Has anybody seen it yet?
I haven't seen it today.
Okay, it's really good. And it just made me think, it was loosely connected to this, but that idea that show how hard it is to show up. And none of us know that in this room because we're all white.
Yep.
And there was something about it. I just cried pretty much the whole time. And the piece that I kind of took out of it too is that they each had their different way of having to do it.
Oh.
But they had each other.
Yeah.
And that is a piece of all this, that you can't do this in your house by yourself.
Yeah.
It's totally impossible to stay at the fulcrum, whatever language you want to use, to there has to be something about some kind of solidarity that just helps stay in, because otherwise it's just too hard. And they had that. They had a really special thing, but it sucked. And that was not that long ago. And kind of watching it, it's hearing Brian Stevenson talk too is kind of that same thing, just the reality that wasn't that long ago. But these women rock, you guys.
Well, yeah, so the movie is, again, what's the name?
It's Hidden Figures.
Oh, yeah, Hidden Figures.
Yeah, the mathematician.
Yeah.
These three black mathematician
females.
And the thing was, I need to look this up, but Obama last year in 2016 gave the Presidential Medal of Honor to one of them, and I think she was that really sweet woman that was like, you guys are black and you're in the White House, with Michelle and when they dance. Yes, I think that's her.
Oh, wow.
I'm almost positive it's the same person, so I'm not positive. But
Well, I think that's, if there's reward and compensation, that's it. That if you can get settled and you can find your people, then they're just the best people. You guys are the best people in the world, and people I'd rather hang out with than anybody. I started this online exercise thing, community, and part of it is this community, online community, Facebook, whatever. They're the best people. Because I'm thinking, it was started by this celebrity who is just gorgeous and buff and I hate those celebrity fitness things, but these people, they're they get on the video, they show you their before pictures, and some of them don't have teeth, and some of them are out to here, and some of them have chronic illnesses, and some of them are battling cancer, and some have just had losses, and I'm like, these are the people, but they're signed up, but they're just so who they are. And it just hit me again how this is the reward that you get, and you probably can count off if you can sort of find them and let yourself be known and connected to them, is that the underground people are the best, and you don't have to do it by yourself. So I guess that's it for now. So thanks for coming.
This is helpful space to have hope.
I hope so.